Therapy, therapy, therapy. Say it with me, guys. Therapy, therapy. A lot of people need therapy. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I will specifically be talking about Patrick and Kacie. I just want to start by saying that there will be some spoilers, okay? This is Love is Blind season 9. And I have watched up to episode 6. So I think there's 6 episodes out. There will be spoilers. If you want to keep watching and don't want to know about what happens between Patrick and Kacie, maybe don't keep watching this, okay? But just want to put that warning out there. Okay, so we need to talk about Kacie and Patrick, okay? Because I think that there's so many things happening between them. It needs to be broken down. Sorry. So I'm not only going to talk about what happened with them on the show, but I want to talk about them as individuals also. Okay. So yeah, so we are just going to jump right in, and I want to start with Kacie. Okay. Kacie is the first person I believe that we met in season 1. I'm sorry, in episode 1. Okay. And it starts by her talking about her dating experience. And she says that she was in a long-term relationship, got out of it at, I think, age 27, right? And she goes on to say that every guy she's ever been with cheated on her. And that, you know, she dated one guy who would compare her to other women that were blonde, right? So it was almost like there was always another hot blonde around the corner. Like, she didn't really feel secure. And she made a comment when she was talking about this in the confessionals. She said something like she would compare herself to these other girls and she would ask, oh, why don't I look like that? And I thought to myself, what? And it's just so sad to hear this, because you can tell that like her level of self-esteem has been somewhat broken down by these trash men, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm going to also say that Kacie has allowed her self-esteem to be broken down by these men, right? Because a lot of times as women, we will say things like, you know, even Kacie saying every guy she's been with cheated on her. That's strange. What are the odds that every single man you have decided to date is cheating? At a certain point, it's not about the man. You have to look at yourself, because something's wrong. Her picker is off. What? And then hearing even about this guy, she said that she met one of the guys, he was on social media. And that's another thing that women have to know. Whenever you're dealing with men in certain fields, you get what, you know what I'm saying? Like a man on social media, like, I don't want to judge and say all men on social media ain't shit. I'm not going to say that, but I'm just going to say that men in certain professions that do certain things do not get the best rap, right? It's like, who are you choosing to date? And in the confessionals, when she's talking about her experiences and stuff, she starts crying and saying that she just wants to be with a guy that's like not gonna obviously cheat on her and da-da-da-da. Like, I am just so tired of the victim mentality that some people have. When it comes to dating, if you're experiencing something and it's happening to you over and over and over again, like every guy is cheating on you, you have to look at yourself. And I think Kacie has some deep insecurities, and I think she needs to really like maybe go to therapy, because something is not right there, right? Like every guy you're with should not be cheating on you. Why are you comparing yourself to these other women that these guys you're dating are interested in? Why are you allowing this behavior to happen to yourself? Do you not think you deserve a guy that's better than that? These are the questions Kacie needs to be asking herself, okay? So that's that. Then we're going to talk about Patrick, okay? So Patrick is an Asian American. You know, he's living in Colorado, and he talks about his experience with that, right? And he explains that it has been difficult, you know, and that his ethnicity, right, is something that he feels like he is judged on. And he mentioned something about how he does everything else that people in Colorado do: hiking, fishing, biking, jumping, skipping, whatever. And for some reason, he still doesn't feel like that level of acceptance. And he feels like it's because he's Asian, that it's like, no matter what, he doesn't quite fit in. And I think what he's trying to say is that even though he does all the activities that these people in Colorado do, they still see him as somewhat of another, is what he's saying. So Patrick, I think that the issue I'm having, right, because one thing about Patrick I've noticed is, and people tend to do this a lot, when you're going through something, right, or you're experiencing something, one thing you have to know is you can't take things so personally, okay? So what I'm gonna say is, how many other people, right? Because I've seen this on TikTok, whether it's a Black woman, whether it's a Mexican woman, whether it's a mixed, like all types of women, right, that are non-white, right, will come online and say, I struggled dating growing up because they grew up in an area that was predominantly white, right? So one thing that Patrick has to realize is that he is not the only one that went through this experience, right? And he has to understand that when you're in a place, right, or anywhere you live, and you are not the beauty standard, right? Because there are not many of you, you're like sprinkled in. It is not like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's going to be tough. You know, I'm not saying that that's right. I'm not saying that it's right for people to be judging him that is Asian. It is wrong. You know, it is wrong. But we don't live we live in a world where people judge people based off race. They judge people based off skin tone. They judge people based off of gender. They judge people based off their socioeconomic status. They'll judge you for anything. Like, that's unfortunately the world we live in. Like, even though it's 2025 and we would like to believe that things have gotten a whole lot better, we're not where we should be. When it comes to race, when it comes to people being open, we're not where we should be. We're not. So one thing that Patrick has to know is that he's not alone in his experience, because I think that people will experience things and they internalize it. Him being treated the way he was treated growing up, and what he's experienced, I think has made him feel like he is inferior in some way, if that makes sense, or like he's not good enough because of his race, because of his ethnicity. And he needs to get out of that. It's causing a level of insecurity within him. And this insecurity is greatly affecting his dating in a negative way. So he needs to heal that. He needs to understand that even though he grew up in an area that was predominantly white and did not see him, right, as the dating beauty standard, right, or like as someone that's necessarily really attractive, that was just an experience because he grew up in Denver, Colorado, guys. Jesus Christ. Like, imagine if Patrick lived in New York. Imagine if Patrick lived in San Francisco. San Francisco has so many Asians. If he lived in California, if he lived, like, you know what I'm saying? If he lived in LA, if he lived in New York, if he lived in one of these major cities that have a crazy level of diversity. And Patrick, between you and I, just know that you could always move. You don't got to stay in Colorado, right? Where you're experiencing these things, because there are options out there. I guarantee you, you know, but he needs to heal this wound. He needs to get out of this insecurity. He needs to get out of feeling like he needs to somehow prove something to these people. I think he's looking for validation from white people. He's looking for that. And I don't know why. So let's get into what happened to him, you know, but with him and Kacie and even Anna when they got into the pods, okay? So the first thing I'm going to bring up is the conversation that Patrick has with Kacie, where Patrick is letting Kacie know that he's not white, right? And Kacie becomes curious and she wants to know what race he is, right? Patrick was so reluctant to say it. And I don't blame him, because part of being on Love is Blind is getting out of this superficiality of thinking about race and the appearances of things, right? But the way he was so scared to just say that he was Asian, and like, it actually like hurt me even. I was like, damn, like, you're just Asian. Like, it's not like, I was like, this is sad, you know? And I think it goes to show you how much he's been affected by this in Colorado, where he lives. Like, this shit is deep. And this is why I'm like, he needs to go to therapy, because it actually is not that serious. You know, when they talk about how there's kids dying around the world or something, like, literally, like, there's so much worse happening in this world than for you to be this worried about your ethnicity. And I'm not trying to take from Patrick's experience what he experienced while he was in Colorado. I feel for him. I feel for him that it is this bad, that he is this scared to say something like that, right? But like, he needs to heal that, because it's created a level of insecurity. It has. And Kacie, no matter what she said, I know she said something to him like, you know, my brother has a woman he's dating that's Mexican. Her other brother is dating a woman that's like half Black. That's great to hear, right? But one thing that Kacie didn't say, which to me would have been the most important thing to hear, She doesn't date out. She does not date out. So you don't get brownie points for everybody else in your family dating out when you don't date out. I think that would have been the most important thing for her to say. If somebody has constantly only dated one race their entire life, and at this point they're 30 something years old, best believe that is their preference. That is what they're probably going to default to, right? So since Kacie didn't ever say that she dates out, that would have been a reason to leave this situation alone. Patrick should have just known that this would, like, no, just no, you know? And I get that Kacie was trying to reassure him by saying she had all these people in her family that were dating out, but the bottom line is Kacie does not date out. And that is the most important part of the conversation, because that's the person you'd be spending the rest of your life with potentially. You know, if you're going on a date and a guy ever tells you that he dates women that do not look like you on the regular, run, okay? Like, I don't want to judge, but like, it's usually not a good sign, because it normally tells you that that is their default. That is what they prefer. There's nothing wrong with having preferences. Stick to what you prefer. But one thing that people have to know is that preferences are often rooted in a sense of, I don't want to say racism because I feel like that sounds so bad, but like, they can be. They can be. But one thing I have to say is these places and spaces, this is why people, like parents as well, can be very adamant about living somewhere that's diverse, especially when they have kids that are not white. This is why. This is exactly why. Patrick is exactly why parents don't want to move to areas that are like all white and they have a child that's Black, or they have a child that's Mexican, or they have a child that's Hispanic and like or Asian. Like they don't want that, because they know what that's going to be like. And yeah, once again, Patrick has to know he's not the only one that went through this. There are other kids in America growing up in predominantly white spaces that feel the same way he does. It's not a good feeling. This is why people push for diversity. This is why. Because especially as a child, you're so impressionable. As you get older, you do have more of a sense of who you are, for the most part, right? But like, especially when you're young, you're so impressionable. You want to fit in. And immediately when you don't look like all the people surrounding you, you immediately stand out. You're immediately feeling like you're judged based off of that. It's not a good feeling. It's just not. Yeah, and another thing about Patrick is I think that he's probably been overlooked a lot, and he's probably felt like he's not good enough when it comes to dating. And it's sad, because I think that like people just, you have to heal these wounds, especially when it comes to insecurities. Like they play such a big role in your dating life, you know? Like Kacie, to me, said so many things in the pods that should have made Patrick know that like she was not the one. And honestly, when she started talking about her ex and basically alluding to the fact that he was waiting for her on the outside, Patrick should have packed it up. He should have packed it up. And I don't know why he didn't. I don't. And I think this is where I have to just call, yeah, he needs therapy, because that was the biggest red flag if I've ever seen one ever in my life. And I think that he was so desperate to be chosen, so desperate to find a fiance or whatever, that like he just glazed over. I don't get it. What is that? And this is why I'm like, people have to heal these wounds, because I think that his insecurity and what he's gone through has affected his ability to even see things straight, to even see it for what it is. Like, she's not somebody that you want to marry. It's clear as day. Take race out of the equation. This is like common sense, you know, like, so yeah, it's just very disappointing and confusing. The other thing I'll say is Kacie's lying to herself about, you know, this ex and being over him. And she was telling Patrick about how it's been done. Why did Kacie bring up this guy? I don't get it. Like, why would you go on a dating show and even bring up an ex? Why would he even be on your mind? The fact that she even brought him up is proof enough that she's not over the guy. She's not. No matter what she says, she's not over him. You guys, haven't you heard the saying that the biggest way of knowing you're over someone is when you have a level of indifference? She still feels some type of way about this guy. I feel like even her saying that, oh, she'll show him that, she'll find love on Love is Blind and won't be back waiting for him. Even the way she said that, it was like the sense of still trying to get back at him. There's still emotions there. There definitely is. And that's what Patrick was picking up on. Like, you're not over this guy. Who are you fooling, Kacie? Who are you fooling? Like, she's not over him, And for her to even bring him up is proof alone that she's not over him, because he's so irrelevant. He shouldn't even have been brought up on the show. Like, why would you bring this guy up at all? This guy's got her in a chokehold, guys. And we all know that after she decides to leave the show, right, she's going back to this guy, the guy that treated her like really badly. This is what I'm saying. And this is why I don't feel bad for women. Anytime a woman comes to me and she's like, men are trash. They cheat. Da, 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 the first thing I want to know is, who are you choosing? Because 9 times out of 10, all these women that are running around acting like they're a victim of men, and they're part of the problem. Kacie is part of the problem. Okay. Yeah, I'm not saying these men are necessarily great, but she's part of the problem. She is. So yeah, so we see that Kacie, after choosing Patrick, they do the reveal. It seems like things went well. She ends up telling Patrick that she's leaving the experiment. And we see that prior to telling Patrick this, right, she's talking to production, telling production that it does have to do with the way he looks. And then when she tells Patrick she's leaving, right, she tells him, oh, it's not because of your appearance. Ooh, Kacie is just, I don't even know what to say. But she's just mean. Oh, mean. Like, the guy already told you his ethnicity in the pods. Why didn't you just leave? Like, why? Who forced you to get engaged to him? He's not your type. He's not. You didn't have to force it. Like, oh Lord, I don't get it. And then the way she was kissing all up on him after doing him this dirty, I was like, this girl needs to get off of him. Like, the fact that Patrick didn't push her off, couldn't be me. The way she was kissing on him, like, she was just trying so hard to, like, show the cameras that, it wasn't about his appearance. She was really doing her big one for TV because she knows that she looks so bad. So bad. And I think that because she left prematurely, like, after getting engaged, she probably thought that they possibly wouldn't even air her storyline with this whole thing. But, yeah, no. Just, oh. And I just think it's crazy because it's one thing for people to act this way behind closed doors. It's another thing for people to be acting like this on live television in 4K for all of America to see. It's bad. Colorado, I think they need to send the whole state to therapy. Every single person, because at this point, what is going on? What is actually going on? Just know, anybody watching this that lives in Colorado, there are 49 other states to move to in the United States of America. Let me just remind you, okay? Because something's not right. I don't want to blame the whole state. I shouldn't blame the whole state now, but like, everybody this season just, it goes beyond just Patrick and Kacie. Issues. Oh my Lord. Yeah, too much. So that's my take on them. This is what I just had to get off my chest because it's too much. Therapy, therapy, therapy. Say it with me, guys. Therapy, therapy. A lot of people need therapy. These therapists should be, yeah. Oh my God. So please tell me what you guys think about this particular couple and what happened between them. Please, please, please let me know your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Please like, comment, and subscribe at the bell. I will be doing my next review on episodes 5 and 6, which are the last 2 episodes that have been released so far. And then when they release the second batch, I will be doing those as well. Please like, comment, and subscribe at the bell. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.
Why you always in the mood? I'm acting brand new. I ain't trying to tell you what to do, but try to play it cool.